Welcome to a noob's guide to Morathi. This is Morathi, Dark Elf Sorceress Supreme. With MILF magic so powerful she can summon any character in Warhammer back to her room when she backs up that Drudy. As the first among the Dark Elf Witch Queens, Morathi rules the battlefield and the bedroom from her fortress of Grond, wielding magic even darker than her eyeliner to become one of the most powerful sorcerers in Warhammer. And in this video, we'll go over Morathi's lore and how that's been translated to gameplay in the Total War Warhammer series. Morathi is more known as Malekith the Witch King's overly kinky mom than her own character, and has been accused of faking her own kidnapping, seducing a king, and corrupting an entire nation and condemning it to thousands of years of civil war just for personal profit, which is a bit like laying the breakup of the Beatles solely on Yoko Ono. Not that Morathi hasn't sought power, she's struck pacts with blue-balled demonic entities just to unleash the might of chaos on anyone that displeases her. But 2,000 years of incandescent rage has solidified her position as one of Warhammer's hottest and most dangerous cougars. Morathi's body count is so high that even Joseph Stalin and Taylor Swift can't match it, though for very different reasons that somehow still both involve mustache rides. With a character who is a literal man-eater, or at least gobbler, it's important to remember when it comes to Warhammer Fantasy that everything is canon, but not all of it is true. Games Workshop's official canon for Warhammer Fantasy was that there wasn't one. Every writer had the freedom to do whatever they wanted within the bounds of that release edition, which is how you wind up with endless memes about Morathi sleeping with her own son. She went from heavy metal Maleficent to a scantily clad siren perpetually stuck in compromising positions by the end times. And because this is from the naughty oddies, they also gave her feet pulled straight from a Quentin Tarantino film. Now, I'm not saying that Total War should have given the poor woman slippers when they adapted her, but if they're that dirty, she's doing it on purpose and just waiting to make somebody else clean them for her. Beneath Morathi's hard exterior, so far hidden it might as well be in the Earth's core, is a wounded dreamer who is forced into barbarism and savagery. Morathi is able to see visions of the future in her dreams, and as a child, living among the splendor of the elves in the veritable Eden of the Old Ones, she glimpsed the apocalypse of the Great Catastrophe, where chaos would flood into the world and destroy it all. But no elf listened. They were cattle grazing in summer fields, unwilling to believe in slaughterhouses because they hadn't yet been inside one. So as Morathi grew into one of the most beautiful women to ever live, her despair turned into anger, and she swapped prophecy for seduction to get their attention, using her body to gain a few minutes of time with nobles, princes, and even the Ever-Queen herself. Not that they listened. When chaos did finally break into the world, Morathi only narrowly avoided being the plaything of a Slaaneshi warband thanks to the timely arrival of the elven warrior Anarion, who was brave but incredibly dangerous, half mad from carrying around a sword cursed by the elven murder god Cain, who is distinct from the chaos god Khorne in ways that don't matter when you're being butchered by his sword, the Widowmaker. Only Morathi was able to brew potions to help Anarion sleep and keep the sword's bloodthirsty urges at bay. This bit of hurt comfort, coupled with the fact that Morathi was easy on the eyes, led Anarion to throw her a bone every now and again. But while other elves were blinded by lust for Morathi, Anarion was immune. There was a coldness in him that she just couldn't touch, but that didn't stop her from trying. With a voice that was dark like tinted glass, she was fast, thorough, and sharp as a tack, and knew that what Anarion really wanted was a girl who wore a short skirt and knew how to jacket. Their relationship became a wild mixture of desire, respect, hatred, and anger that fueled crazy nights and several days where Anarion's car got keyed. Morathi's rage gave her a dangerous but beautiful edge that made her even more desirable to Anarion. That he was never frightened or intimidated by her intrigued Morathi all the more. But for them, safe sex meant going to bed armed, and soon Morathi bore them a son, Malekith, who didn't always look like that. Malekith's birth pushed these new parents to find a way to finally end the war on chaos. Morathi began to study the ways of their demonic enemies, and Anarion, worried, probably studied them a bit too deeply. And when she had a vision that the next time Anarion left her side, he would die, she begged him not to go, even daring to lay out her true feelings and say that she loved him. Venarion decided this was a good time to go out for a pack of smokes. Heartbroken, Morathi swore that her son would rule the elves in his place and do a far better job of it. When Malekith was passed over for his father's throne, it led to a civil war among the elves. Morathi eventually retreated to the frozen north of Nagorond, where she's been kept warm ever since by her simmering rage, and has sworn never to put on clothes again until her son is crowned Phoenix King. Since that day, Morathi has pursued this goal with supernatural determination. Whenever the Witch King Malekith fell and got a boo-boo, Morathi was there to kiss it for him. When he faltered, Morathi was there to fan the embers of hatred in his heart. And yes, that did mean killing Malekith's wife to keep his eyes on the prize, because Morathi didn't breastfeed him for 5 years to settle for Vice King. She spent millennia working long, hard, sweaty nights to teach Malekith all she knows and help maintain his grip on Naggaroth's throne. Taking a cue from her late husband, the widow Morathi pledged to keep using her potion-mixing skills in service of the elven war god Cain, in exchange for certain key benefits. Power, of course, but also staying young and beautiful forever, because what's the point of immortality if you can't enjoy it? Realizing these powers she was gaining for herself were too important to just be giving away to anyone that asked, Morathi taught them only to trusted priestesses within the cult of Cain. These death hags mix noxious potions that drive the dark elves into battle rages and craft poisons for their blades, uttering spells that befuddle enemies or strike them with madness. In fact, Morathi and her sorceress trainees also wield spells from the lores of dark magic, death, and shadows, with Morathi herself getting the best primo bits of each in-game. Like all legendary lords, Morathi has unique items to unlock, one of which, I kid you not, is the Hitachi Wand of Kiraiden. Once you acquire these weapons, she'll put that newfound wrist strength to use and become a surprisingly good duelist in battle. So invest a few points into her melee skill line for extra hit points, and while you're there, you can pick up her Enchanting Beauty skill, which lowers the charge and attack damage of nearby enemies, as they fall over themselves to have mommy step on them. And yes, there is already a mod for that. But the skill does reinforce her theme of wrecking the lives of anyone she comes into contact with. But her actual generals never lack in loyalty, thanks to her starting abilities and the promise of perky benefits for her friends. And as a member of the Frequent Flayers Club, Morathi can sacrifice to the elven god of magic, Cody, more often and with fewer slaves required. Because while she's always willing to spend them on more knowledge, she also needs to keep enough around to clean up after the cults of pleasure. These dens of excess are dedicated to the chaos god of sticky floors, who, Morathi realized, was just another god willing to join the long line to get into her soul. In exchange for the occasional demonic spritzing, she gained chaotic magical mastery and encouraged simps and subs across the Druchii Empire to drop to their knees and worship Slaanesh. Under Morathi's tutelage, the cults of pleasure flourished in the dark and wet places of the Druchii Empire, so don't be surprised as you conquer the world when everything gets all pink and wiggly. But besides a bit of questionable redecoration, it also makes Morathi the only elf that can recruit daemonettes in-game. Eventually though, Malekith caught wind of his mother's sexcapades, and shut the cults down faster than free seafood night at the strip club, reminding Morathi that the Chaos Gods should not be trusted and only serve themselves. But his countless encounters with the Slaaneshi demon Nakari had taught her that wasn't always true. The game lets you choose between playing Morathi as either a cunning linguist licking the world into shape, or a battlefield dominatrix riding around atop her dark Pegasus, Sulafet, who, by the way, is the only evil flying horse in the entire Dark Elf army that gets a name, which may or may not imply that Morathi was a horse girl at some point in her life, which just makes your choice between playing Morathi as a puppet master or master pegger all the more difficult. In the end, you can rest easy knowing that whatever path you choose to play for Morathi, so long as it involves exploiting the patriarchy for your own benefit and dominating anyone you come across, she would approve. Because beneath that cold, hate-filled, shockingly gorgeous exterior lies the heart of a cold, hate-filled dominatrix who would personally whip the world into submission given half a chance. And have no doubt that if her plans ever failed and Malekith were killed, she would cash in all her chips with the dark gods and destroy the world rather than endure being forced to watch it in someone else's hands. Which is a kind of love, I guess, and something you can get behind, like thousands of others have with Morathi. Because this has been a Noob's Guide to Morathi, first of the Hag Queens.